So, and I will send out a recording of this tomorrow to everybody as well, which will be available for you for 48 hours to watch, or 24, 48 hours to watch. So I have some slides to show you. We also have a very, very exciting demo to show you later on, but I'll introduce that as we get to it. And I'll also send you, because there's some good detail on the slides that I prepared as well. I'll send you around the slides. So you'll get a copy of the slides and you'll get a copy of the video post-presentation. Normal procedure. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. And can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Great stuff. Thank you all. Great. Right. Here we go. So the title of this is very catchy. It's called Google Core Web Vitals and How to Speed Up Your Website. Essentially, though, what this is all about is there is a big change coming to how Google ranks websites in about 43 days. I've got this little timer here. Yeah, 43 days. So we have 43 days to prepare for this. Google are making a big change to how they rank websites. And they pre-announced this a while back, but time is running short. So I'm going to explain what the change, basically, I'm going to explain what the change is, break it down a little bit. We're not going to get very technical. So this is one area you can get incredibly technical, but I've tried to create an easy way to look at this for you today. So hopefully it should be very easy for you to digest and understand. That's the idea. Then I'm going to give you some ways that you can prepare your websites for May. So you've got 43 days to prepare them. And then we've got a very, very exciting demo to show you at the end of the presentation. Okay, does that sound okay, everybody? Thumbs up if that's okay. And again, if you have any questions, please just unmute yourself, shout at me. Right, here we go. So this is the agenda. I'm going to explain, to start with, what the change is, what the change in the Google algorithm actually is. It can be a really technical discussion, but I'm trying to make it quite simple to understand.
Sorry, James.
Yeah,
we're getting some background noise. I can't hear you at all.
Is anyone else getting that?
No, I can hear you fine. Jimmy?
Fine, yeah, all good here.
Okay.
Good here too. I can hear you fine.
Okay, so I think it must be just your connection, I'm afraid. Yeah, so I'm going to explain what Google are changing. I'm going to go into a bit of detail on this change. Is really, the name of it is Google Core Web Vitals. So if you Google that around, you'll hear that's what it's called. So I'm going to explain what it is, basically, top level, the changes they're making. I'm going to show you how you can test your website, whether it passes or fails the Google Core Web Vitals test. Google have built a very simple tool where you can go and test your website today and you'll find out your website score. My suspicion is they'll probably fail. Okay, but don't panic if that's the case. My suspicion is most sites will probably fail at the moment. I'm going to explain some of the sort of key factors that might be slowing down your website. I'm going to show you some ways that you can help to speed up your website. So some best practice stuff that you can be doing. And then finally, I'm going to introduce a new service, which I only discovered about a month ago, but it kind of blew me away more than any other. I've been working in WordPress and this area for WordPress for 10 years or 12 years and online since the internet, really. And I discovered this service called NitroPack about a month ago and was completely blown away by it. We'll explain what it does later on. But I was so blown away by it that I emailed the co-founder, Dayan, who's graciously joining us today. I installed it on my site, Pootlepress. There he is. Wait. I installed it on my site, Pootlepress, and my page scores went from a fail to a massive pass. And then I tested it on my wife's website. She runs a yoga studio, and we had enormous page speed increases. So it kind of blew me away, really. So I've gone from not knowing much about it to being a massive fan of it. So I've invited Darren along today to give you a short demo and explain a bit about how NitroPack works. The more I learn about it, the more impressed I am as well. It's doing some really, really, really clever stuff automatically. So we'll give you a demo of that. It's very cool. Is that okay? Any questions on that? Well, good. Right, let's crack on. So what's changing? So the big change is that Google have announced that page experience is going to be an important ranking factor. So the whole idea is the experience when somebody hits your web page, they're trying to put metrics around that experience. They're trying to set criteria around the experience. And basically, they're trying to encourage websites to create delightful web page experiences for their viewers. The key bit that's changing within that page experience is they've come up with a set of criteria which they're calling Google Core Web Vitals. which I'm going to explain how this breaks down in a few minutes. It's going to come into effect from May this year. So as I said, we've got about 43 days to prepare. They announced it. They announced it a while ago, so that website owners would have time to prepare for the change. But before we dive into the detail of Core Web Vitals, it's really important to remember that it's still just one of the ranking factors that Google is going to be using. So it's just one of the sort of bricks in the wall of how they rank websites. The other things that, if you've come on my previous webinars or courses, are still, they're still very, very important ranking factors. So, at the top of the list is the quality of the content you're producing, the content length, the search intent, whether you optimize your websites for SEO, whether you've got backlinks, whether you optimize for keywords. Those are all still really important drivers of your search ranking. But Core Web Vitals is now going to be an important plank of that. Okay. So how do you test whether your websites pass or fail Core Web Vitals? Well, helpfully, Google have built us a tool, which you can find at this URL, but I'm going to give you a little demo of it now. It's called the Page Insights tool. And it's just a website that you can go to. Well, let me just mute everyone again. Yeah, it's just a website that you can go to like this. And you'll see at the top here, you have a box to put your website address in. So this is one I ran a while back for my website, and you see I'm passing. But I'm going to put in another website here. This is just a test website where I've been testing some themes, actually, which I'm going to show you some scores to in a few minutes, which is interesting. And then you hit Analyze. And then this tool will trundle off, and it will analyze your website to see whether it passes or fails the Core Web Vitals test. And then, now remember, this is a ranking factor, so that's why this is so important. Yeah, it's just taking a while for this site. Cool. Okay, so, and this is I've clearly failed badly. This is out of 100. So the lower the number, the worse the performance. And then it's going to start off. The first thing to note is up here, it's going to show you a mobile score and a desktop score. And the mobile score will always generally be lower than the desktop score. Okay, so, but these are both not in the green. What we're aiming for is 90 to 100 down here in the greens. And these are both failing quite badly. Okay, so you can put in anyone's website up here. You can go and put in a competitor website up here and see how they're faring. In fact, I put a few famous newspaper websites up here the other day, and they were all failing miserably. So, it's not just smaller websites that are going to be failing at this or panicking about this. So that's the first thing. You get this lovely sort of traffic light system up here that Google have made us to tell us very quickly whether our websites pass or fail. And then if you scroll further down the page here, you'll get some more information. Now, this is when we start to get kind of very technical, and you have to understand some of this stuff. You have to, or to fix some of this stuff, you'd normally have to be a developer. Now, most of us aren't developers, but I just want to explain a few simple things about what these scores mean, because they'll be useful to you. Yeah, so we've got the score here. Now, the first thing to say is Google break, and I should say as well at this point, I've been learning about this subject in depth for the last month. So, I've accumulated knowledge. But Dayan, if you hear anything that I'm saying over the next 15 minutes that's erroneous or incorrect, will you interrupt me and correct me, please? Cool. Yeah. So the first thing to say is on this page score here, you'll see the two important bits of data, or what Google are calling lab data and field data. Now, essentially, the main difference between those is one is a current snapshot of your website performance, which is the lab data, and field data is a historical view on your website over a period, I think, of 28 days. Okay. Now, that's the difference. Those two results down here might be different, because if you make a change today, your lab data might be all right, but the field data might still be failing. Okay, so don't panic if your field data isn't quite up to date. Field data as well is based on real data that's taken from people's browsers when they're browsing your websites. It's anonymized data, but it's real life analytics that Google tracks from people, real world experience of browsing your website. So there might be some changes between those two. But initially, the sort of lab data stuff, when you're first making changes to your site, is the kind of stuff you're going to be focused on, because you'll see an immediate change on that score. Okay. which I've explained here for you. Yeah, so things can get really technical. But in summary, the kind of broad context of this is Google is trying to reward websites with a good page experience. And within that page experience, we have the core web vitals over here on the left, which I'm going to talk you through briefly in a few minutes. And then you've got the other page experience things over here on the right. Okay, so I'll start with the other ones because we probably know about some of these. The most important ones really, well, the ones we can probably understand most easily are mobile friendly. So have a website that's mobile friendly and have HTTPS. So HTTPS, for those that don't know, is that little padlock up here in the browser. It means the site's secure. Yeah. If you don't have one of those, then your site will probably show something like on this site here, where it says not secure up there. And you can get those from typically your hosting company will be able to get you an SSL certificate. That's what they're called. And that gives you that little padlock. Okay. Then over on the left here, we've got the new core web vitals, which I'm not going to dive too much into detail into these now, but I'll explain a little bit about them. And they're quite unhelpful. They're quite hard to get for me, personally, they're quite hard to get your head around. But there's three main factors. The largest contentful paint, the first input delay, and the cumulative, I can't say it, layout shift. Okay. In simple terms, what those mean is this one here, which that means how long does it take the largest element really to load on your page, which typically, let's say it's your home page. Let's say you had a big image banner on the top of that home page. That would be measuring how long that biggest element on that page would take to load into your site. Dayan, are you okay with my explanations here? We can't hear me.
So far impressed by your explanations. You managed to put this in a very succinct terms. these are very difficult to get your head around, to be honest. We've always spent quite a lot of time digging into technical details, but I don't think Google helped us a lot with this LCP, FID, and CLS business.
They didn't,
but
no.
So far, I think your explanation is really good.
Great stuff. So that's the first one. In simple terms, if you had a big banner on your web page, how long does that web page take to load into that page? Okay. The second one is first input delay, which is, as far as I read it, is interactive. How quickly can somebody interact with your web page? Okay. And then the third one, which you probably all experienced, but never seen it explained in such confusing language, is cumulative layout shift. That means when something loads on a website, does it move around after it's first started to load? You've probably experienced this where you've loaded a website and you go to, you might be on your phone and you go to click a button and the button suddenly moves down under here somewhere, and now you're sort of trying to find it. Everything's sort of starting to shift around on the web page. So, and they call this broadly visual stability. So does the web page move very much after it loads? And it's measuring all these things, and Google is now going to measure all these things, and they've helpfully giving it these very confusing acronyms to do it. But you can see these results on this page here. Okay, so you've got them here, and it tells you, see, this site here is failing badly. It tells you here that you can see whether you're failing or passing these things. Okay, so you can track them, you can see you're failing, but you're not necessarily going to be able to do anything very easy about it unless you're a web developer that can dive into code. Okay, but we'll come to that. And then I've just put some more explanations for you on this slide if you want a bit more detail on it. Okay. So that being said, there is some, and I suspect that everybody on this call today is probably a WordPress user, and actually most of these. So there are some things that you can do that will help some of these metrics, and you should be doing these things anyway. Really, the first thing, one of the most common things that's going to affect this LCP thing, which is the largest piece of content that's going to load onto your site, typically might be your images. They're typically probably going to be one of the largest things that's going to load on the page. And it's one of the most common things that I see on websites that I'm either supporting or helping with, is that people have massive file sizes, and that can really slow down the loading of those images. It's really common to see it. It's a very simple thing to sort out. There's kind of two tips I'd give you. The first is, before you upload your images to WordPress, size them to the right pixel size. Okay, so if you're imagining your website, the average website might be, let's say it's 1500 pixels wide and you wanted a full width banner, then I would size that image to 1500 pixels wide before I even upload it into WordPress. And you can do this with lots of different software that's freely available. If you wanted your image to be half the size, then you would size it to about 750 pixels as a rough guide. Okay. That's the first thing. And sorry, the other thing to say is if you take a photo with a digital camera, a good DSLR, or even an iPhone, your file size, your pixel size could still be, 5,000-6,000 pixels wide, which is, could be 6 times too big in terms of file size. And even though in WordPress you can visually move that down within the editor, the file size will remain the same. Okay, so you want to get them the right pixel size before they get anywhere near your website. Once you've done that, there are some tools that you can further compress your images. This is one I've historically used. It's called TinyPNG. This comes as a plugin to WordPress, or you can go to their website and use it. You just upload your photo to their website, and it will create a much smaller version of it in a compressed format, which you can use on your site. This is also a really useful tool, by the way, if you're using, things like MailChimp, or you're using any other tools to send photos around, because it gives you fantastic compression with no loss of quality, in my experience. You can also, as I say, you can use this as a plugin on your site, and as you upload your photos, it will compress them for you. You can also use it retrospectively on your WordPress websites as a batch process. So you can install it as a plugin, it will run through your site and compress your photos. So that'll do some good. It won't do everything, but that's definitely going to do some good. This is the second biggest sort of area of potential improvement that I see on lots of sites that I'm supporting. Too many WordPress plugins. Here's an example here. This image was so big, I couldn't fit it on the page. I see lots of sites with just too many plugins. Now there's no real way of saying how many plugins are too many plugins, because they all do such different things. So I would ask yourself the question always with plugins, do you really need it? Is it essential to your website? Because every plugin you add will have a technical overhead to your site. And I see lots of sites where people are using plugins and they just don't need them. So my advice is have a plugin purge. Go through your site, do an audit, look at each plugin. Are you using it? That's just part of your sensible workflow that you can be doing on your site.
Can I ask a quick question, please? Just going back to images again, you're saying about obviously resizing your pictures, but that can be dependent on screen resolutions, because obviously you've got some screens that are Retina and 5K and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you were to say have a banner at 1500 pixels, is that going to look terrible on a 5K Retina screen at full screen? So
great question. Dayan, do you want to jump in there, or is that?
So there's several things that you could be doing here, and then there's definitely a very good reason to pay attention to what size of an image you're serving to different viewports. So in essence, different devices. I can sort of give you an idea of how we solve that problem. There are other tools out there that would be focused just on doing that job. So there are several things you could be thinking of here. One is, depending on the device that your user, you'll be seeing your images on your whole page on, you're able to preemptively size something called a container. The container is basically the placeholder where your image is going to go into. And based on that, it is possible to sort of know in advance, hey, I will need a container that's this big or that big, and I'll be able to sort of automatically guide the process of sizing later on. So we call this preemptive image sizing. This is something that's definitely doable. There's also something that's called adaptive sizing. So that will be basically adapting to what I just mentioned, the size of different screens. And when you take that together with compression that James talked about, and you add lazy loading to it, and you might also want to be thinking about converting your images to modern formats. There's something called a WebP format. That's actually one of the best things you could use out there. WebP usually allows you to get a great compression rate whilst maintaining the visual quality that you'll be otherwise be getting. One thing to look out there is not all browsers support WebP. So one way to go around this issue would be to have a sort of automatic fallback if the browser doesn't support WebP, but that's definitely a good solution, something to think about. It is web as in the web and a P added to it.
Krista.
The WebP format, yes.
Phil, we're gonna give you a demo later on, which NitroPack solves some of these problems automatically, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited about it, actually. Back to plugins quickly. You know, you might do, but one of the things to say about plugins is you might do this plugin purge on your website, but you might have to use that plugin. So I've got some slides I'm going to show you now where I've just taken a website and I've stuck it on just some cheap shared hosting. And then I've done some speed tests on it. So this score here is running a very fast theme, and it's just running WooCommerce, but it's still just with WooCommerce running, which for those that don't know is the largest e-commerce plugin in the world. Then it's scoring, you know, quite low on the mobile score. The desktop, this tab here is better, but the mobile is still quite low. So this is just to say that, you know, you might have to use that plugin to drive your website. So getting rid of plugins isn't always a thing you can do. Okay. Then we come to slow themes, which is another common reason why your website might be slow. Okay. So what I've done here, I thought we were going to play a game actually, but what I did on this cheap shared hosting, I took some of the most popular themes out there, and all I did was install the theme, no plugins whatsoever, and I just ran some tests. And I'm going to show you what these themes, now some of these themes you would have heard about. So here we go. I think I've got 5. I'm just going to show you the scores that we got. So this one here scored 35. Anyone guess what this theme is? Anyone want to shout out? No takers? This one is, the reveal is at the bottom, the exciting reveal. Here we go. This is Divi. So Divi scored 35 for those that know Divi. It's a very, you know, popular theme. I used to use it a lot actually. But it's become notoriously bloated, which means it's, you know, got lots of stuff in it, lots of code in it that kind of slows down the site. But this is what you get. No plugins, just Divi installed on some shared hosting. So quite slow out of the box. This next one is also quite slow, 38. And this one is Avada. This is one of the most popular top selling themes on ThemeForest, which is a very popular theme marketplace. Again, scores very poorly in just the basic speed test. Okay. So your theme could definitely be an issue which is slowing down your website. That's what these slides are trying to show you. Here's another one. This one here is faster. And this is Flatsome, which is a very popular e-commerce theme. Does much better. Okay. We're still not in the greens for mobile though. Okay. The next one is, what we've got here, 68. This is our theme for those that use it, 18 tags. 68. So it's okay. Could be better. We're working on it at the moment to improve it. The desktop scores as well are always higher, by the way. I've got a couple more for you. We're going up in speed here. So this one surprised me a bit. This is Storefront from WooCommerce. Still not in the greens for mobile. And then we go quicker. We're going quicker as we go along here. So this is 96. This is Astra, which is now the most popular theme out there. I'm a big fan of Astra at the moment. And then finally, we've got slightly slower, actually. This is Cadence, another theme that's making a lot of buzz at the moment. Now, what these themes have in common as well, Astra and Cadence, and do I have another one? But they're all kind of built for the block editor in mind, for the Gutenberg block editor. And I don't know if anyone's been following me lately, but I'm a huge fan of the Gutenberg block editor for one of the main reasons is speed, especially versus things like Elementor. We're seeing a lot of people shifting away from those things because Core Vitals is going to be a ranking factor. And this final one is the 2021 theme, which again scores very well. So your theme is one area where you might want to look at in terms of changing it to improve your speed. It could also be your hosting. Yeah. But it is really hard to diagnose whether your hosting is slowing down your website. It's not easy to do unless you're a server developer. It's a hard thing. So, you know, for most of us, that's kind of a black art and we can't get near understanding it. And it's not easy, you know, even though you might identify it's your theme or removing plugins or to change your hosting, it's not an easy thing to do. It might be a huge amount of work for you to undertake. So wouldn't it be great if there was a a different way to do this, which didn't involve hundreds of man hours of work and confusion. Which leads me on to, some other things that you could think about. You could use a caching plugin on your existing theme, on your existing hosting. And there's a few famous ones out there, or popular ones out there. I've just named two here, WP Rocket and WP Cache, which will do some of this for you. They'll do some of this heavy lifting for you. They won't do everything though. And that's why I got so excited about NitroPack. So as I said, and we're going to give you a little demo of this, I discovered NitroPack about a month ago. Dayan's going to explain a bit more, hopefully, about what it does. But this on the screen is an example of my wife's yoga website. Her site runs Divi, still running Divi, built it a long time ago. And on the left, we have a score prior to installing NitroPack. And on the right, we have a score of 98 post installing NitroPack. So quite an incredible improvement, really. It's that sort of mind-blowing change in your page scores that you see instantly, which is kind of creating so much excitement about what Dayan and his team are doing. So with that said, I'm going to hand over to Dayan to tell you a bit more about it, if I can share. If I can let you make a host. I'm going to make you a host, Dayan.
Amazing, yeah.
Okay, and do you have control now?
I do, yes. Starting off, I wanted to just share a couple of words to sort of get things in context, and then I will show you what we think would be very helpful for you all to solve your core web vitals. And then I'll show you some specifics about the product. I'll be focusing on things that is going to be very hard to get otherwise in terms of information, and hopefully give you some really useful information to go and be better equipped to handle your core web vitals. So first of all, we started working on site performance and site speed back in 2012, when Core Web Vitals was not a thing, when that didn't really exist. We back then were working in OpenCart, which is an e-commerce content management system specifically for e-commerce. And for existing customers, then we needed to find a solution for site speed improvement, caching. We started doing that. That really took off, worked really well. But as time went on, we saw that the site speed thing is really a global issue. It's not something that is WordPress specific. It is not something that is Shopify specific. Absolutely everyone is having a hard time dealing with the speed of their websites. And if your website would be in the reds or yellows in terms of scores right now, I have to say that is quite often to be seen. That is not something that's a unique case for you. Throughout the years, no one had really paid much attention to building a fast website. A more or less priority has been on building things that are functional, that look great, that would create a good experience for your user in terms of how things look like. But no one had really given much consideration to performance. And me personally, as a user of things, I like to be able to use a product that solves a given issue for me. I've co-founded 2 companies before doing NitroPack. And as someone who runs a business more or less, I enjoy having solutions that sort of taking care of the whole problem for me, not just a one tool that would take care of one part of the system. So when you think about your site's performance, I find it very useful to think in terms of a system. Jamie showed you guys really the most important sort of parts of that system. Things like your web hosting, what theme are you using, the plugins, how are you taking care of images, maybe you have video, maybe you have a JavaScript that's doing some intricate functionality on your website or displaying something. And then it's really hard to have a plan on how to deal with site speed. And there's so many things that you could be trying out. We find it to be very time consuming. So talking to customers throughout the years, we saw that one would either try and find a specialist to do it. Specialists are few and far in between. You do not know what type of a result you're going to be getting. And this is not to everyone's budget. On the other hand, if you try and use all those different little tools to try and piece together a solution, well, that really doesn't work from experience. I mean, we've seen countless times where folks have tried 5, 10 different plugins, put them all together, and they'll be getting mediocre results. And I quite honestly, as a business owner, would like to use solutions that just allow me to focus on what I do best, on how I add value to my business. And this was the design intent behind NitroPack. NitroPack is a set of optimization techniques. It's a piece of software that runs in the cloud. When you connect to it, it sits between your origin server and your end user, and it takes care of optimization between those two parties. I will go into more details in how exactly that works, but the way you can think about it is NitroPack sits between your site and your origin server and your users, and performs a set of optimizations on every page automatically in the background, 24/7, crawling through your web pages and making sure they're optimized. The great thing about having this in the cloud is we have a lot more control in terms of how quickly we can push updates. So for example, Google in 3 months decides to change the way that they measure core web vitals. Well, we're in a great position to help out a lot without necessarily having folks to have to update their plugins. So NitroPack will be using a plugin to connect to your WordPress. The plugin is, you can think of it as the communication line between your site and NitroPack. So the plugin itself is a connector, and NitroPack is pulling the heavy lifting from your server towards our various servers that do all the work. The design intent there was to make sure that regardless or allowing for a larger variety of different hosting scenarios and different setups there, that you would still be able to benefit from a great increase in site speed by utilizing techniques to optimize that in an automated fashion. So I'm going to share my screen now and show you guys some more specifics. Can I please get a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen? Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So first of all, when we were creating NitroPack, we thought of three basically most important things that we always have in mind. As a business owner, you most likely want to give your customers a good experience. So when we do optimizations, we focus on what's called above the fold. So above the fold will be what's displayed in the user's browser when they load your page. So that will be above the fold stuff. We focus on that heavily. What's happening under the fold, that's business for sort of later on. And that's why we have implemented ways to defer loading or make sure that whatever's loading in your footer doesn't have a negative impact on how people experience your above the fold. Times and times again, we've seen studies, and we are doing some studies ourselves, where we see correlation between a better site speed and conversion rates increase, be it for e-commerce, be it for publishers who rely on ads. It is more or less expected that if you work on your site speed, you're going to be seeing better conversions as well. So this seems to make a great business sense there. And ultimately, we want to be allowing folks to have extra time to take care of how they add value to their businesses. So this is a picture of how NitroPack sort of works. As I said, your origin server will be here. You may be running quite a different type of assortment of hostings. So we wanted to make sure that, yeah, you may be in a hosting that's subpar in terms of performance, but there's still benefit to be gained. An important point here is NitroPack is going to give you a great result, a great speed increase, regardless of how things are right now. But you could always think of this whole system, for example, my hosting, do I want to be improving that in the future? So we always recommend thinking of how can I better serve my customers by, for example, maybe improving my hosting. But whatever case you're running with right now, we want to be able to go and try and help you. So NitroPack will be taking the user request. So there'll be a user coming, wanting to see a given page, and they will be asking for that page that will usually be served by your origin server, and then it will go back to the user. And what NitroPack does is it differentiates between desktop, mobile, and tablet versions of your pages, and performs an optimization, so a rate of optimization. Things like working with your CSS, HTML, JavaScript, minifying it, taking away things that would not be needed to display whatever is being displayed. We're doing some advanced things like manipulating the way JavaScript loads so that we prioritize whatever is above the fold and we defer whatever needs to be happening later. One analogy I like to use is, in most cases, your website will be performing like a crowd in a supermarket that wants to all check out at the same time and pay for their groceries. But if everyone goes to one checkout, then that's going to create a huge queue. And that's usually what happens when people load websites nowadays. And what we allow you to do instead is, using software, open up additional checkouts so that traffic can flow a lot faster. So on top of that, we do all that optimization needed on images by default, built in with every plan, and that is turned on for you when you get a NitroPack subscription, the free one as well. So that was a very good question earlier on, and how do we think about serving different image sizes to different devices? We think of that built in programmatically, so you don't have to. There's quite a few features going in NitroPack. This is our website. You can always see that later. There's a comprehensive list of what is going on behind the scenes in terms of features. The most important takeaway here is we do the optimization. So in terms of JavaScript, images, CSS, HTML, and then this optimization is being cached. There's some very, I think, unique to us things that go with caching as well. Things like, if you push out new content, we're going to be automatically aware of that, and we'll invalidate whatever is old content, and we'll be pushing out the new content. NitroPack will be aware of cookies on different devices. Very, very important, and will integrate very well with all or most important other third-party caches that will be sort of out there. There's more than 40,000 websites that use NitroPack right now, and pretty excited about it. So as we work on those numbers, we start to see themes reappearing. So I'm going to stop the share for a second here. Yeah, because I want to give you the idea of what seem to be the most common issues and what could be done about it. Jamie already talked about plugins. I can't stress enough how often we've seen sites be debilitated by plugins that in some cases did really seem like they weren't that vital to whatever the website was doing. So I strongly recommend doing an audit of what could be removed there and what can be kept. One common offender for performance are sliders. They do serve a purpose of creating that beautiful slider experience where you see those beautiful images, and that may be okay, that may be fine. Just keep in mind that that slider may be really damaging the speed with which your website loads. One way we've seen people use an alternative to this would be a fantastic hero image. So hero images tend to be a really, really good solution to this, because there's a lot more that you can do in terms of optimization and have just an overall nicer experience. NitroPack will help you with some sliders as well. Whatever we know that will be used widely out there, we work with. We see quite a lot of folks with Revolution slider, which works very well in the majority of cases. But be aware that is one of the more like edge cases of optimization. An important piece of information is NitroPack wouldn't be a substitute for your hosting. NitroPack would be coming on top of this and trying to help you out. So moving on.
I've got a few questions down. Can I interrupt you and ask a few questions?
Please do, go ahead.
Which are the questions I had for you actually last week as well, some of these. So for people that have existing hosting and the hostings have their own caching systems, NitroPack, for example, I use WP Engine, who have their own CDN and caching. They work together, right?
Yes. So WP Engine is a fantastic example. We keep close communication with them and with their support teams. And it's very easy to be using WP Engine and NitroPack at the same time. That would require just a an exclude by a cookie type, it's something very easy to do. The information is on our website. It's basically something to copy paste and ask WP Engine support to do. So in terms of different types of systems that you guys might be using, number one will be Cloudflare. NitroPack works very well in addition to Cloudflare, not instead of Cloudflare. The edge case there would be if you would be using something like the Rocket Loader. So the important thing to know is other caching plugins would need to be disabled, because two caching plugins running simultaneously would create conflict in terms of what's being shown to the end user. But caching layers could be made to work together very neatly. Case in point being Cloudflare, case in point being WordPress, WP Engine. There are other hosting providers as well. So on a case-by-case basis, we either have a way to integrate or a way to bypass cache if needed. We'll be able to give you the specifics given what hosting provider you're on. But things like SiteGround, WPX, Kinsta, they're very well known and quite a few folks are using them. So integration, for example, with Cloudflare and things like security is very, very easy. All you need to do is paste some details within your NitroPack dashboard, and that will automatically create an integration. The most important thing.
Sorry, I've got. Are you interrupted you mid-flow? I've got some more questions. Do you want me to wait?
Please.
So Paul's question, actually, I can answer. So Paul's question was: does NitroPack replace the default caching provided by WP Engine? I think you've just probably answered that one. I wanted to say though, Paul, because I'm WP Engine, and the scores I got from using NitroPack with WP Engine on my site were incredible. The improvement, I don't actually know the numbers, but there were huge increases. So it's the beauty about NitroPack. You can test the free version for free, and you can put it on your site. And you can get an instant. Go to Page Insights and you can see the improvements you'll see immediately. I answered my own question, sorry.
About the free plan, because I think that's going to be very important to everyone.
Yeah.
The free plan works very well for very small websites. It has the same optimization power as the paid plans. It is limited to 5,000 page views or a gigabyte of CDN bandwidth. It is designed to help you test things out, and is designed, especially if you're running staging environments, it's fantastic to use that for. No credit card required. You can go and get it any time of the day. And this puts a NitroPack footer badge, and that's important to know before you put it in production.
Were you going to, because I've got a NitroPack installed on a WordPress site, were you going to show that, or shall I show that quickly?
If you have that that you can quickly show.
Oh, you need to, yeah, can you make me host again? Sorry. Can you make me host?
Yes, sir. Let me see how I do that. This is James.
For some reason, I couldn't make you a co-host, which was, I'm now the host. Right, let me share my screen. So we had a couple of questions about whether it's a plugin or whether it's not a plugin. So I've actually got it on this site here. So it comes as a plugin, and essentially, which is a free plugin here, you can actually the plugin is available for free on WordPress.org. And it's just this one here. Let's make this bigger. Let's make this smaller. There, that one. Free plugin. So you can go and download that from the WordPress.org website. And then you just go to the NitroPack's website, which is that. Get started, create an account, and you can create a free account. And essentially, I've got an account, so I'll show you what I've got. In here is where you add your website. So the first step is add your website in your NitroPack account. Put the name of your website in. Then you install the plugin, activate it, and it instantly will ask you, it won't now because this site's already connected. It'll basically ask you which site you want to connect to. So it's a seamless way to connect your website to basically the NitroPack service. So it takes about 5 minutes to set up. So I would urge you and encourage you to try out the free version because it's incredible. You'll see incredible results very quickly. Right, I'm just going back to the questions quickly. Dan, sorry, did you have more stuff? You've got more stuff to cover?
I can go on all day. I think it's best to focus on questions.
Okay, here's one I don't quite understand. So can NitroPack work with PeachPy compiled WordPress deployments?
I need to double check what PeachPy compiled WordPress deployment.
PeachPy is compiling down to the .NET runtime. So PeachPy takes the whole WordPress PHP and compiles to the .NET runtime. Okay. We get about a 70% performance increase in the operational performance, but we're looking to see if customers could use NitroPack with that. as well.
That's a fantastic question that I've never been asked before. So
Yeah, when you compile the WordPress to the
Mhm.
.NET, like I said, we're seeing 70% performance improvement right there.
That's very
Without-
interesting, Brian.
Because
Yes.
you're running PHP as a .NET Core runtime. So, but you have to compile all your plugins too. So that's the other gotcha. So you have to compile the plugins. But like I said, I mean, this is very NitroPack with that could be amazing.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave that one with Dan, I
Well,
think, because he's
yes, I'll give you what my intuition is, but I do not know if that's going to be the case because I haven't come across this use case as of today. If if our API can communicate with your WordPress installation, in theory, we should be fine. But that's best to be tested out. You can just grab a free plan and go and test it on staging any time of day.
cool.
Thank you.
Which answers Paul's question, which was, can you run the free on the staging? Yep, you can, and you can run it on a real site if you want to as well. I'm just trying to find any other questions. Oh, we've got loads of questions coming in. So Paul also asked, does NitroPack cause cache conflicts with hosting servers or on individual devices if you are running Cloudflare caching on the host servers? I think you answered that, did you?
Well, you would need to integrate with Cloudflare, and then things should be smooth sailing from there on.
Okay, I'm just scrolling through the questions. Another question was, do you have a top 10 list of worst plugins that impeded performance? No, but that's a great title for a post. So I'm going to write that, Paul. Thank you for that content idea. That's genius.
I wouldn't name specific offenders, but I would give you some
Okay.
things to think about. Sliders usually cause a lot of friction, just because when sliders utilize JavaScript and you try to optimize that JavaScript, that could lead to visual sort of hiccups. So I really would consider, hey, why am I using this slider? Does that really make sense for me? And what could I gain if I try to use something else?
Yeah, cool. Brill, I think that's, if I've missed anyone's question, I'm so sorry. But if I have missed your questions, just unmute yourself and shout.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So can I share my screen? I have a question to Dian.
I'm not sure, actually. You can. Hold on. I'm not sure. Can you? Is there any way you can try and hold on? There you go. Have a go.
Yeah. So here I have PageSpeed Ninja, and it has a lot of settings, very many settings you can individually set to get your site working faster. But not all of these settings work. Some will destroy your site, or will just not destroy, but some things will not work appropriately if you use these settings. So it's a very individual thing. And my question to you, Dian, is that how does, what's it called, NitroPack, is it kind of working in a similar way? And how does NitroPack avoid settings that can also destroy your site? So
Thanks,
Yeah.
Bill. That's a great question. I think that's a great question. The short answer would be with a lot of engineering sweat and tears. That's how we try and avoid that. We've built in a lot of thought into giving two types of users the ability to use NitroPack. If you go and get a free plan now, you're going to, or any plan, you're going to get NitroPack with a preset of settings that works for the majority of people out there and the majority of sites out there. Obviously, one of the complexities is there's so many different websites and virtually no two sites are the same, that it could be very practically difficult to apply the same set of settings for everyone. So very important point here. I wouldn't say that a caching plugin or an optimization plugin could destroy your website. Even if you see visual problems, very important to know that you're seeing those on sort of a copy of what's on your origin server. So if something goes wrong, you can always just click the button and stop it. And then you'll be going back to normal. I didn't manage to see the screen that you were showing. So maybe you're referring to something that I didn't see. But in terms of settings, with NitroPack, you can either use the preset. That's what the majority of people out there do, the ludicrous mode, or a less aggressive optimization mode. You could also go granular if you want to. To be honest, doing settings when one isn't really certain into what they're doing could lead to weird results. So if you know what you're doing, you have the complete opportunity to go really granular on settings with NitroPack. And then two very important things that we recommend people do when trying out a service like NitroPack. First, if you have a staging version of your website, go and try it out there, because you can go and break as many things you want. You can go and try out as many things as you want. And second, we've built a feature that we call safe mode. Safe mode is a button on your dashboard, and you press the safe mode button, you save your settings, and that makes NitroPack work live in your production website, but not showing any optimizations to your end users before you've completed your testing. So if you ever run into questions or something that you think might not be working well, just enable safe mode, and safe mode will allow you to not show optimizations to end users, but you could go and test the optimizations by appending a test parameter to your URL. That's documented on the website. I'll be happy to send you a link as to how to go and do that. So there will be never a service that would work for 100% of websites out of the box. I mean, that is technically not feasible. But even if something doesn't seem to be working well, I would not be panicking, because those changes aren't eternal. Those aren't changes to your original code. Those changes are applied to a copy. So you can always revert back to how things were before. Does that answer your question?
Yes. First, I thought that NitroPack would do these settings for me. So I was wondering, how does it? So that answers the question. So you have to configure it yourself. You optimize yourself.
It's a preset of settings you get. Yes, Jamie.
Yeah. So I'm conscious of time, and there's a great question that's come in, which I really want you to answer, because I think it summarizes a lot of the stuff that NitroPack does. It's from Jessica, and here's the question: with NitroPack, would we no longer need plugins that do image optimization?
Yes.
CSS minify, for example.
Yes.
Hummingbird smush. That's an open goal.
So we subsume that there is a list on the website that you can reference. In essence, we subsume functionality. So we do that already within NitroPack, or we add things that other plugins wouldn't be doing.
Yeah, cool. And which is one of the reasons I love it so much, because it does all this in one simple solution without you having to know anything. And then we've got a question about Oxygen Builder, which I can't quite see what the question is because it's up above, but I guess it was, does it increase the speed of Oxygen Builder? I'm not sure you'll have any details on that, will you?
In general, it improves the speed for almost anything out there. We have people using Oxygen as well.
Okay, cool. Great. We're 2 minutes to 5. So thank you, everyone. I hope that was useful to you. We've never had so many questions. So that's a really good indication that this is one area that's of huge interest. Just a couple of things to say. As I said, I'm going to send out tomorrow a recording of this to everyone. I'll send out all the slides as well. A huge thank you to Dane for joining us. He's got, he's been living this for years and years. So it's amazing to have him along. It's brilliant. So valuable. We have got a offer for you, which is a 10% discount, which I have managed to squirrel out of the guys at NitroPack. So it's 10% off. There is a free version, but there is a paid for version if you really want to go for it. All the information is on their website, but you can just use this code, this link that I'm going to send everyone. In fact, what I'll do, I'll put it in the chat now. That code will automatically take into account the 10% discount. So you don't have to mess around with any things like coupon codes or anything like that. Just pop this code in and it will automatically take 10% off you. I'm putting it in chat right now. And that is going to be valid for 7 days. So my advice is click on the link, go and try out the free version as soon as possible. Be completely amazed by what you see. Read up about NitroPack around the web. They're causing a huge amount of excitement. So you can read lots of stuff about them and go from there. So thank you, everyone. Has anyone got any final questions before we close off?
I wanted to sort of give a way forward. If you guys run into further questions, you can always drop us a line at support@nitropack.io. You can always use the help center. We have quite a lot of things going on there. If you visit our blog, we have detailed guides on how you could be digging deeper on all those different issues. So the blog, the support center, and email will be happy to help out.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you all. Keep well. Hopefully see you all soon. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks, John. How are you? You all right?
Well, I've got a bit of a sore throat that's going on a bit, but we'll get there.
I don't know if you were around. I had my vaccine last night, so I'm feeling.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had mine about a month ago, and I had a couple of days when I felt a bit shit.
Yeah, I felt. Yeah. Apparently, the worse you feel, the more healthy you are. You know, strangely.
It may be an indicator of a good immune response.
That's right. That's what I've heard. So I'll take that.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for coming. I hope that was
No, it's fantastic.
of some use. It's interesting stuff, isn't it?
It's great. Fantastic.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to sign off now. Keep well, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.